Hello, welcome back to Nails by Sora. So this video is going to be a bit brief. I'm actually going to try to explain what I'm doing in it because I was recording two videos at the same time, going back and forth, and I was only going to do this one, but the acrylic paint that I'm using took a really long time to dry. So I pushed it aside to work on something else and then came back to it. But I forgot to record an outro showing all the nails. And I think I actually didn't even finish recording the actual process of decorating the nail at the end, or the finishing design. But I've seen this technique a few times using raw pigments. It's not acrylic powder, it's not dip powder, it's just pigment powder, probably mica based. And what you do is you take a jelly stamper and you rub the pigment powder on the jelly stamper however you want, however many colors, whatever pattern you want, and then you paint over that with acrylic paint. Once that dries and you bend the jelly stamper, the acrylic paint, because it's stiff, it cracks. But the pigment powder is now stuck to the acrylic paint, so when you put it on top of a tacky layer on your nail, it pulls both the acrylic and the pigment powder onto the nail, and you wind up with this really beautiful crackle pattern. And you can do it however you want. You can do full coverage over the nail. You can do, bits and pieces as a finishing touch, or you can just, do what I did and play around with it and see what kind of patterns it creates and let that lead you into your finished design. So I just took one of my square jelly stampers that I already had. I actually am going to have to throw it out afterwards because I was playing around with it so much that I cracked the jelly stamper itself, which shouldn't happen if you do it properly, but I was messing around with it a little bit too much and tore it. But I'm just taking an eyeshadow applicator and I'm using that to place the pigment powder on the jelly stamper, and then I'm going to use a makeup sponge to dab the acrylic paint on top of that. These powders you can get on Amazon. I will link them in the description box below. They come, I think they came like 50 colors in a order. Obviously all individually packed in pouches. I decanted them from the pouches into half ounce jars that I already had. So I'm pushing those jars aside so I don't knock them over. And I'm going to grab my acrylic paint, which I also got on Amazon. And like I said, I'm just going to dab it onto a makeup sponge and then dab it onto the jelly stamper once I get the wrapping off of the bottle. So this is all in real time. As you can see, it's a pretty straightforward process. I ended up upending the bottle onto the sponge because I wasn't getting enough off of the mouth of the bottle, and now I'm just dabbing it on in a pretty thin layer. You don't want to go too thick because, like I said, it did take quite a while to dry. So my advice would be, if you want to do this technique, to set it up ahead of time if you have a couple of jelly stampers. I actually just bought a package of, I think, 6 or 7 jelly stampers by Makartt. Pretty inexpensive, and they actually came with some stamping plates as well. But I would definitely set this up ahead of time so that you can allow enough time for the acrylic paint to dry properly, so that you're not sitting there just staring at it waiting for paint to dry, because for it to do a work properly, it really does take, I mean, I didn't watch it because I was preoccupied, but it definitely does take at least a half an hour to properly dry. But I went and I let that set, and then for this nail specifically, I just did a base coat. a gel base coat, cured it fully, so that leaves behind the tacky layer, and then I'm just dabbing it on in a pattern that seems to make sense for that nail. For the other two nails, I did colored backgrounds. This one is, I think, Bubble Bath. I'm not quite sure. But I really didn't want to go through the whole process of setting up another jelly stamper pad, so I just used whatever was left on this pad to place on the other nails. So they're going to be a little different from each other. And the nail came off the stand. My goal wasn't to make them match in any way, shape, or form. I was just playing around with it, trying to see what kind of patterns I could create. This one I think is Millennium, and it may not be. I may have mixed a few colors together, but you can use whatever color you want. It doesn't really matter. The point is that you want that tacky layer so that it's going to pull the acrylic paint off of the jelly stamper. So now I'm going to go in with a layer of Builder Gel, and that's just so that I can create an even surface to continue the design with. I'm pretty sure I'm thinking that regular base coat will probably work just fine. The layers of acrylic paint and pigment aren't really all that thick that it would make a ridge or a delineation between the gel polish and the pattern, but I just wanted to make extra sure and go in with the Builder Gel so that I could have something that self-levels and really creates a nice even surface. So with this nail, after the fact, I decided that I didn't want just a clear background. So I decided to fill in the negative space with my gold gel paint. And in hindsight, it obviously would have been a lot easier to do this on a colored background, but I wasn't really sure at the time where I was going or what I wanted to do. So I'm using my flat brush to lay in a large swath of color, and then I'm going to use a detail liner to go in and line the negative space in between the cracks. So this is me staring at the other nails, trying to figure out if I want to put in any other accents. With this nail, I didn't. I just went in and I base and top coated. I did add in some accents to the blue nail, but for some reason the video cut out and I don't have any more footage after that. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it inspires you to play around and just, see what you can do with your tools, something out of the norm, and just have fun. So if you have any comments or questions, please put them down in the comments section below. All information will be put in the description box below as to what products I used. Please give me a like and a subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when new videos are available, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.